record. Woohoo, I did it. Okay. I want to welcome everybody. We are doing another ILPC TAJE fall session. Today we are so lucky to have Bruce Skaitzen, who is a former anchor and now is the media, would you call it the media director for Baylor University?
Is the director of student media.
Director of student media and he's also the voice of the Baylor Bears.
The Lady Bears.
Lady Bears.
The defending national champion Lady Bears. So.
Woohoo! I'm a Longhorn, but I'm very proud of those Baylor Bears. And we also have joining us Julia Lawrence, who is currently in New York. She's a senior, and she was the LTVN executive producer at Baylor last year. And we also have Sarah Gill, another senior who's an executive producer this semester. So I want to welcome them. Super excited. I'm going to hand over the Zoom to them and quiet myself. Students, if you're online, feel free to use the chat to ask questions, and then there'll be an opportunity at the end to unmute yourself to ask questions.
All right, very good. Thank you, Jeanette. And we are so excited to be here talking with you today and representing Baylor University and Lariat TV News. And as Jeanette mentioned, my name is Bruce Skaitzen. I'm the Director of Student Media, overseeing all the platforms at Baylor with our media. And one of those is Lariat TV News. And then joining me are two of my executive producers, one from last year, one from this year. Ladies, I'll let you introduce yourselves. Tell the attendees a little bit about you, where you're from, what year you are, that kind of thing. Julia?
Alrighty, my name is Julia Lorenz. I'm originally from California, but I came to Baylor and I'm loving Texas. However, after I joined Lariat TV News, I was there for 2.5 years and was the executive producer this past semester and absolutely loved every part of it. However, right now I am in New York participating in a Baylor internship program that allows students to take classes while also working an internship here in New York. So right now I'm going to be a broadcast producer for the Children's Hospital in Mount Sinai Children's Hospital. And I'll be returning back to Waco in the spring, hopefully enjoying everything that Baylor has to offer still.
All right, very good, Julia. Thank you. I'm glad you're with us today. And then our other student joining us is Sarah Gill. Sarah, tell us a little about yourself.
Yes, hi guys. My name is Sarah Gill. I'm from Fayetteville, Arkansas, and I'm a film and digital media student here at Baylor University. I'm a senior, and currently
Oh, we lost you a little bit, Sarah. You froze up. So we'll get Sarah back to join us. But Sarah is our executive producer of LTVN this year. So now, Jeanette, I'm going to share my screen and we'll get into our presentation a little bit here. So if I can.
And let me just apologize for mispronouncing your names. It's a joke at UIL that the more I mispronounce student names, the more likely they are to win awards. So I'm masterful at that. So I apologize.
That is not a problem at all, you know. So and we're pretty much used to it, I think. So it's not an issue. All right. Okay. Here we go. This is our presentation today. Hopefully, no question, we're in uncertain times with producing newscasts and challenging circumstances with the pandemic. And so we had to go through that ourselves at LTVN, and that's what we want to talk about at Lariat TV News today. So this is titled Topics, Tips, Strategies, and Ideas for Producing a Broadcast Program in a Pandemic. And so the table of contents, what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to tell you a little bit about LTVN, Lariat TV News. Some of you may have something very similar in your school that you do. Then we'll talk about our shift to virtual newscasts and we had to do, how that came about and how we tackled that and some of the decisions we made. And then we're going to give you some tips on how to get the best video and audio possible for your newscasts, whether you're doing them on site or you're having some people working remote or all your people working remote. We want to give you some tips we've learned on that. And then also want to talk to you about finding content, what stories to cover, how to find them. We're going to show you some examples throughout this presentation of some of the things we've done at Baylor, and also going to ask you some of the questions and problems that maybe you're having, and maybe we can help with those. So First of all, what is Lariat TV News? We are the broadcast arm of Baylor Student Media at Baylor University in Waco, Texas. And that student media includes the Baylor Lariat newspaper and digital platforms. And we've gone to almost completely digital this year with that. Our Roundup yearbook, we sell more yearbooks than any school in Texas. Our Focus magazine, which is a themed magazine, once per semester. And then we've got our website, BaylorLariat.com, and we have our Morning Buzz e-newsletter, which is our fastest growing platform that we populate with video and stories and pictures. And so we'll talk about some of those. So just to give you an idea of what we've done in the past, you can see some of these. These are pictures of some of our students. We used to do our newscast out of a studio in our film and digital media department downstairs with a green wall, as you can see there in the middle bottom picture, and in the studio up in the middle top. And we do that. And we do that in conjunction, collaborating with our film and digital media department. And they would have a class of 9 to 10 students doing the behind the scenes, the behind the camera things. And then our students would produce the content and anchor and run prompter and some of that for those newscasts. And you can see some of our students on site, McLean Stadium on the left, on campus. On the bottom left, we have a Baylor Radio, Lariat Radio, some of our students doing play-by-play of Big 12 football games. And then one of our graduates, Jessica Babb in Washington, we have sent crews to the last 2 presidential inaugurations to cover in Washington. We go to bowl games. We send our students out to cover big stories because we certainly think that's part of the learning experience. So how we produce our newscast, we have a staff on LTVN of 10 people, and that includes an intern or 2, and includes an executive producer, which Sarah is now and Julia was last year, and then a managing editor, 2 management positions out of those 10, and then 8 people who function as reporters, and if they meet their quotas on stories, they also get in the anchor rotation for our newscast. Now, our newscast, we used to tape those in the studio on Friday mornings. We'd tape one version at 9 o'clock, another version at 10 o'clock, same exact newscast, but with different reporters and anchors and different production crews. And then we'd pick whichever one was best, and we'd do post-production after those newscasts, put in the chroma key on the green screens, and then put it all together and then post it in 3 places Friday afternoon. We'd put it on our website, we'd put it on YouTube, and we would also put it on the Waco City channel, a closed cable channel that the city gives us 7 hours per day on. So we had 3 outlets there, distribution outlets for a newscast. But that has all changed. Now we have to tape our newscast remotely, and so the reporters work on their stories throughout the week. And then we will tape the anchor lead-ins on either Thursdays or Friday mornings and then edit the newscast together. There's some positives to that and some negatives to that, and we'll talk about that here shortly. And then content, each reporter is required to do 1 package and 1 VOSOT per week. And then the best or most relevant stories make the newscast, and it is Sarah and Julia, the managing editor, who decide that. Now, one thing we also did that I wanted to show you, this was our intro tease we did this year, just about 10 days ago. We have 4 veteran reporters, anchors coming back, and then 4 new ones. A couple are freshmen, one's a sophomore, one's a junior, and we wanted to introduce them to our people, so we post this on our website. It's also playing on message boards around campus. I'm going to play it for you now. Oh, maybe I'm not going to play it for you now. Let's go backwards. There we go. Let's see.
Freshman reporter from Norman, Oklahoma. I'm Madison Martin, junior reporter from Virginia Tech. I'm Nick Smith, sophomore reporter and anchor from Porter, Texas. Here at LTVN, we're there when you can't, bringing you stories that impact our community. Catch us every Friday on BaylorLariat.com, the Baylor Lariat YouTube page, or the Waco City channel. Pick 'em Bear.
All right, so that is the tease, and that was Sarah and Drake's idea, or the last man you saw in there. Sarah, why don't you talk for just a little bit about how this came about and why you guys did this?
Yes. So we really just wanted to kind of just introduce our new staff to the campus community. There's a lot of freshmen that came on campus and they don't know what Lariat TV News is. So we just wanted to do a quick promo. And the idea was just that I wanted everybody to have screen time. And I knew that like, it's kind of just our thing to say for Lariat TV News, I'm Sarah Gill. And so I wanted to get us all on screen at the same time saying that. And so kind of a little bit of the editing process. Some really helpful tools are the crop tool, so that you could crop everybody to be their little box, and then motion and scale. And so you just scoot that over on the screen and then kind of line it up, and then you just layer it on the Premiere timeline. So that's kind of how that worked. And I actually had to slow down some of the people because they said it so fast, but you can't tell because it's so quick. So just some little tips on editing and kind of the thought behind it.
You didn't have to synchronize anybody because they were in their own space with no split screens or anything. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, how that makes things a little bit different. Okay. Thank you, Sarah. All right. So, but as you know, as it probably did for you as well, our world changed in mid-March of last year. Students went home for spring break, and then spring break was extended a week, and then it was extended for the rest of the semester. And they was said they were not going to return. So what was going to happen with our weekly newscasts? We thought, now what do we do? And so we got together and decided, and one of the problems was we had two options. One was, okay, we're done with newscasts. And the other was, no, we're not done with newscasts, but what are we going to do? And then part of the problem on that, we had a big issue. We had communicated or had committed to participate in a worldwide global news relay with 21 other universities, and that was going to happen in just 6 weeks. This was the third year we were going to do this, and we'd done very well with it the first couple of years, but was this going to continue happening, and did we want to still commit to do a newscast, a 30-minute newscast with no studio and our reporters spread across the country? That was a big decision for us to make, and so Julia Lorenz was our executive producer then. Julia, so what happened? What did we decide?
There was a lot of talk about how we were going to make a 30-minute newscast. We had no studio. We had no high quality cameras, audio, any of that. And we were all over the United States. Some were in Texas, California, Arkansas, all over. And how are we going to communicate with each other to make this possible, on top of adjusting to online classes and everything that entailed? So after a few meetings, we decided, okay, we need to all come together and make a decision. Are we going to do this? Are we committed to making this happen with all the difficulties surrounding it? And so everyone said, I'm in. I'm committed to making this happen. So from there, we had to make the decision, okay, we're all in and we're all willing to make this 30-minute newscast, but now we need to make content for it. So we were at the decision, okay, we're going forward. Now we need to have all the reporters come up with ideas, and how are we going to do interviews and story ideas? We're all over the United States, so now we have to do Zoom calls and FaceTime interviews and everything that entailed. So we decided we were going to do it, and we moved forward with that.
And so we had some stories, a couple of stories that were still in the can, or we had video on our server that we thought some people could do things. But we also had students who had to think up story ideas that they would use based on the theme. And the theme for the Global News Relay was the coronavirus, COVID. So we had to do something related to that. And so that was one of the biggest challenges, wouldn't you say, Julia?
Oh, definitely. Because how are we going to relate coronavirus back to Baylor? This needs to, why do our viewers care? And we need to make content that's important to them and that relates to them, but also fits the theme of the newscast.
And one of the ways, and this will be one of our first big points, it's a bit easier now to get interviews with people via Zoom than it used to be. And so, and a lot of people are, they may have the deer in the headlights look when you put a TV camera in their face, but they're getting more and more used to talking on camera, talking to the camera in their computer. And so it removes some of the logistical issues of shooting an interview on video with someone when you can do a Zoom interview. And so we challenge students to reach out to some of their subjects and get some of these interviews and come up with some story ideas. And so now this is the Global News Relay newscast we came up with. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but I'm going to show you some tips, some pieces of it, some clips, okay? Oh,
Bruce, can you up your volume for the video a little bit? It was real low.
okay, absolutely.
On Lariat TV News today in our
Is that better?
special edition
Okay.
newscast
Yes.
of Global News Relay. We'll share stories with you about how COVID-19 has altered life in Waco and beyond.
This newscast will highlight how Baylor's light continues to shine as coronavirus takes its toll on the world. We'll give you an inside look into how Baylor's organizations are serving the community and spreading positivity in the midst of the pandemic.
COVID-19 is a complex virus that we're still learning about. In this story, we'll speak with a Baylor student who is asymptomatic for COVID-19. However, he's experienced loss of taste and smell. We also talk to the Public Health District and hear about the difficulty of tracking people with coronavirus.
In sports, one Baylor Bear saw his dreams of pole vaulting in the 2020 Olympics dashed when the games were postponed. Casey Lightfoot was slated to trade the green and gold for red, white, and blue to represent the United States in the Tokyo Olympics this summer. Good afternoon and welcome to Lariat TV News Today. I'm Sarah Gill reporting from the heart of Baylor University's campus in Waco, Texas.
And I'm Julia Lorenz coming to you from San Diego, California. Thanks for joining us. Today we're going to bring you a special edition newscast as part of Global News Relay.
This event brings together students from universities all across the globe in a newscast focused on how COVID-19 has altered life in Waco and abroad. Our first story is how Baylor's light continues to shine as coronavirus takes its toll on the world.
LTVN's Grace Smith joins us from her hometown of Boerne, Texas, to share how Baylor's organizations have turned this time of crisis into an opportunity to serve.
COVID-19 hasn't stopped Baylor from using its resources to help others around the world. One organization I spoke with is supplying nearly 500,000 starving children across the globe with a boxed meal every day. While the COVID-19 pandemic halted activity on campus, it certainly did not stop the university's light from shining bright throughout the Waco community and beyond.
Right now, as the university, I think, really kind of leaning into our Christian mission to love our neighbors as ourselves.
Jeremy Everett, the founder and executive director of the Baylor Collaborative on Hunger and Poverty, spoke with me about.
Okay, so we won't show you the entire story or go through a lot of the stories, but a couple things you saw there, and I'll let Julia and Sarah talk about that. You had to synchronize that split screen for your comments following up on each other. What was the art? What was the challenge there?
So the challenge there was that so we decided we're going to have anchors. And so we knew that we were going to have people anchoring. And so we were trying to think of the logistics on what that was going to look like. So basically we realized, okay, wait, we need to have the anchor, like just having a straight face and kind of acknowledging the other anchor, even though they're not the ones talking, you still have to remember to record that part when they're just straight face, like on screen. So that was a really big kind of just realization that we had. And so that is a big tip for all of you guys, just to really think about the big picture. But that's we just had to think, okay, wait, we got to think more about this.
So Julia, how did you time that out?
So I was sitting in my living room in front of my TV and I put up our background and put my bar stool up with some lights so it would resemble somewhat of a studio light. And I was talking to my mom. I said, okay, I'm going to need your help. So she's recording me through like our phone because I didn't have obviously our video camera. So she's recording me through the phone. I said, okay, so you're going to have to remember Sarah's part of the script. And I'm going to say, we're going to be the anchors, but you're going to be like resembling what Sarah's saying so that we can time it out perfectly. So if I had my audio track completely on the screen, you would see like my mom talking or Sarah's part. So in Premiere, I cut my mom's audio part out, so I had the timing perfectly so Sarah's portion could go in. But it's funny behind the scenes of how it all came to be. It looks like it's timed out perfectly because it is, but the audio of it would be very funny to listen to because it would be mismatched. But it all worked out.
You had a stand-in actually do it, actually
Takes its
listen.
toll
Yeah.
on the world.
LTVN
Yes.
Lee Smith joins us from her hometown of Kearney, Texas, to share how Baylor's organizations have turned this time of crisis into an opportunity to serve.
COVID
Then you could just make the edit to whatever Grace had recorded by herself on her stand-up, correct?
Yes, and then the difficult part about that is she had an opening stand-up. All the reporters did an opening stand-up introducing their story, and then within that, some of them had stand-ups within their story. So we had to be strategic with what the opening stand-up was saying, so it wouldn't duplicate themselves or wouldn't repeat the same sort of information, but be an interesting lead into the story itself.
Okay.
We wanted all the reporters to be able to be seen on the screen after all the hard work from this semester and show their faces behind their stories.
Okay. And then you also have to wonder about what are you going to do for video? We had some handout video from the Hunger Initiative, and they fed 275,000 kids with a grant, and Baylor was the driver behind that. We also had some graphics, some quotes there. You see, using the computer, it's okay to show you're doing a Zoom interview on the computer. That can be video. You can take that with your phone. You can take that with an SLR camera. And so you have different video sources, and a lot of times the video from phones and computers now is so good, and it's almost 4K video, you don't notice a big difference in the quality, right, ladies?
Yes, I was looking at some of the resources available on my phone because I recently got a new phone, and it says video, it can shoot in 4K, which I was completely shocked by. But the difficult part about shooting during a pandemic is you're not able to say, oh, let me go check out and get this other angle. You have to be creative with what you're doing and doing recording the Zoom call or creating graphics or supplemental video footage that you have to be creative with instead of just walking around and getting creative shots that are physically there. Sarah, what about your experience doing this upcoming newscast that you just filmed? What did you guys do?
Yes, so we actually decided to go ahead and do a newscast last week. And so basically, what we did was we still did that split screen for the anchors. And also, you may not realize this, but like during GNR, what you just watched, Julie and I were both reading a teleprompter. So it's still important. Just because you are at home doesn't mean you can't use your resources. So I had an iPad, and so I just pulled up the teleprompter app on the iPad, and then I just had the person who was videoing me on the camera also run the teleprompter. So having a teleprompter is still really useful. You just got to kind of watch the eye line and make sure that the anchor isn't like looking over here at the teleprompter. You got to watch and make sure the teleprompter is right next to that camera lens.
Okay, we're gonna look at a little clip of that newscast a little bit too. This is the end of Global News Relay.
And that's all from this special Global News Relay edition of Baylor's Lariat TV News Today.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
To watch more of our work, head to BaylorLariat.com. Stay safe and sick 'em Bears.
Okay, so that was another case where you guys had to synchronize your 3 stand-ups and then do the split screen. And how did you edit that triple split screen?
So that was a little difficult because not only was there 2 of us, there was 3 people, and the timing was off maybe by 2 seconds. And I think either I cut into Sarah's or Sarah cut into my voice. So then I had to cut her video of her being straight-faced and do slow motion. You can't tell by watching it, but her smiling is like actually in slow motion.
Okay.
The
Okay.
timing would fit.
Okay.
Yeah, and creating the perfect third so it looks even and no one looks too forward or too backwards is kind of an interesting thing because depending on how far you are in front of the camera creates a different like aspect of how big or small your body looks in front of the camera. So we got it, and the timing worked out well.
You did it in Premiere, correct?
Yes, we do all of our editing in Premiere.
Okay.
Yes. And
So
that
here,
is, Mr. Gritson, you can go.
so you can see here, we went from on the top here on the green screen, having to do newscast, editing, post-production, to doing a triple screen here, not having this studio on the side. So we really had to change the way we do things. So I'll let you ladies talk a little bit about how you set up your home studio to do some of these things. That's Grace Smith, one of our reporters, but you guys talk about that for a second.
Yes. So on the left is Grace, and she actually had a DSLR camera that was at her home. So she used that to film. And then she got one of the light kits off of Amazon for only $20. And she really created her own home studio there and put up on her TV our logo, and it looked very professional. So just because you're not in the studio or you don't have your normal resources doesn't mean it can't look high quality. On the right side is what my living room looked like as I filmed. I was sitting in a chair, and then on top of the bar stool was a container, and then my laptop, which had the teleprompter, and then the lamp, and my mom was recording me. So it was a show, all right. However, it created and resembled a studio without having our typical resources. So I would suggest you guys, when you are trying to make content, do whatever you can in your ability to make it look professional. So whether that is having a lamp, or I use the makeup light to create like good lighting on your face, and a professional background, whether that's a blank wall or something like what we did was we put up our logo on our TVs. As Sarah was saying, we can still use a teleprompter. That's how she'd had it on her iPad and I had it on my laptop. And the timing of the split screens, as we talked about, is like really important because you're acknowledging each other, and it still acts as like a co-anchor and makes it look like you're in a studio. However, you're just sitting in your living room and she's in her living room, and it creates the studio look.
What's the app you guys use as a teleprompter?
So we, as Lariat TV News, we use this website called Rundown Creator, and in Rundown Creator, there's a way that you could go and show the teleprompter, whether you are on your laptop or iPad. But I do know that if you just go to the App Store and you search teleprompter, there is a bunch of apps that you can use.
The funny part is Grace, the one on here on the left, she didn't like to use the electronic teleprompter. So she'd get big board, like presentation boards, and write on the presentations boards her script. And her mom would hold it up in the background instead of an actual electronic teleprompter.
So you were really improvising to make it look good. And I'd like to compliment you guys, because how many of you have watched news now and you see reporters reporting from their kitchen or from their bedroom or from their living room? And I know TV news reporters who work at stations now who haven't been in their own newsroom in 4 months because they are working from their home, and they're having to improvise like this. And I'll see them just have a TV in the background. I think, well, they didn't work very hard to make that background look good, or the lighting. And so they're kind of learning as they went too, because of the pandemic and what all it did. Okay. And so then some filming resources, you guys have some tips from some things they can do, right?
Yes. So I didn't have a video camera, or I didn't have even a DSLR to shoot my footage. So I did everything strictly from my phone. So some of the resources I found along the way to be helpful was this lavalier mic right here on the right. It attaches right into your phone. They have an auxiliary one, but this one was for an iPhone, and they're only about $15. And you can really tell a quality difference in between just talking out loud rather than having this makeshift lavalier mic. So it's very reasonably priced, and you can really tell a difference in quality. And that's how I found it to be a super, super helpful resource. When I record my audio, if I'm doing a voiceover, I always go inside voice memos in my phone, and it's better than just shooting your video and cutting out the video and keeping the audio. And if, let's say, you have the opportunity to do an in-person interview, you can even connect this to somebody's shirt, and while keeping socially distanced. But again, you don't have your usual equipment. Here's another resource. Another thing I always wanted to stress was your horizontal footage. Sometimes when you're on your phone, it's always your first instinct is to shoot vertically. However, when you're shooting for broadcast, it's always going to be horizontal. So keep trying to engrave that in your mind to go horizontal rather than vertical. And as I was saying about video footage, you don't always have the same resources to get video footage. So creating graphics with quotes or statistics or whatever you're looking for, Canva is a really great resource if you don't know how to do Photoshop or InDesign or Illustrator or any of these other Adobe Creative Cloud products. And it's very user-friendly and easy to work in, all different fonts, and you can create graphics at a really high quality without using the Adobe products. And then another resource I found helpful was screen recording. So on top of our 30-minute newscast for Global News Relay, we were asked to do the student government debate. So we did 3 different debates for a student body president and then 2 other positions. And we had to get creative with that. We're not physically there for the debate, so we had to get creative with video footage. So when we did our screen recording on Zoom, we had 2 different options. Built into Zoom is the record option, which is super great, and you can choose which type of way you would want it recorded. So if that's an active speaker or a grid style, that is how we did it. So for Zoom, I said, let's have the active speaker on the screen and record that. And then I'd say, Sarah, okay, would you record your screen in grid style so I can see everybody's face through QuickTime Player on your computer? So then when we're going in and editing, we can have the active speaker cut and then go to the grid style. So you have more variety of footage. And I found that to be very helpful in keeping video interesting and not boring, staring at one person's face for too long.
Okay. Additional tips for video and editing. Sarah, you have any other tips to throw out there?
Yes. So some other tips. Obviously, it is a little tough because I know all of us are on different levels in our skill set of being able to edit using Final Cut or Premiere Pro, whatever that may be that you're using to edit. It can be really tough because you may not have someone right next to you being able to show you like what to do. And so there are some resources that you can use. Number one is YouTube. For sure, just if you have a problem, if you can't figure out how to get a lower third in your video, go to Safari or YouTube and type in like how to get lower third into Video Premiere Pro, and there's so many tutorials that you can watch. So that is an option. Also, if you are using Premiere Pro, it depends on your school's type of account that they have, but there is something called team projects now. So that is something where multiple people can edit a project at the same time. And so that is a new thing that's really helpful. And there's also an app called Discord, Discord, Discord. And really, it's kind of like Zoom, where there is a way for you to have yourself on the screen and for you to video chat someone, but you can share your screen and they can show you their screen. So there's 2 screens being shown to each other. And that is super helpful because maybe if you're a teacher or you're trying to show someone something, you could use your screen and you could move your mouse over and show them where everything is, and they can be on their computer and seeing what they're supposed to be doing. So there are some options. Get creative with it. You could also FaceTime if you guys both have an iPhone. And I mean, even Zoom, you could do a little tutorial over Zoom.
Okay, very good. Simultaneous learning there. Challenges in this shift to do remote newscast, virtual newscast, logistics, planning, knowing your goal and knowing the end result that you want, how you want it to look, and then assigning tasks. You ladies have some things you want to talk about on that?
Yes. Julie, do you want to go first and then I can bounce off of you?
Sure. So planning all of this took a lot of preparation. It's a little bit easier in person. You're like, okay, I'm going to go shoot this interview at 3 o'clock and then I'm going to get some B-roll here and there. But this is a little different. You need to know what your end goal is. So based off of what you envision your video to look like is kind of how you plan for that. So I would always talk to our reporters and say, so who are you going to interview? Just because we're shooting virtually on Zoom now doesn't mean you can just get one interview source. You still have to do your fact checking and getting those interviews. A lot of things don't change, but you have to be prepared and knowing what you want and researching all of that.
Okay.
Yes.
Sarah, how important is it to assign tasks and responsibilities?
Oh my goodness, it is so important. So if you are the one who is kind of in charge overseeing the full product, whether it is a news package or it's a full newscast, you need to be able to think, okay, what is this end goal? What is the project supposed to look like? And then you need to be super detail oriented and think, how can I divide up and assign these tasks? So basically, even if, so let's say you have a news package and you're going to do it on a student who has asymptomatic coronavirus, you need to think, okay, like, what is my B-roll for this? What video and pictures can I show so that it's not the Zoom interview the entire time? And so what I did was I asked my interview subject, hey, do you have like any videos that you can send me? He actually sent me a video of him getting the call that he had coronavirus. So he sent me that. He just sent me pictures of himself as a headshot. You can really get creative with it and don't be afraid to ask them for content, because they would be more than happy to share that with you. And then really just looking at AP and seeing what photos they have, just really having to get creative and think about B-roll, because they say that what you hear on the screen should match up with what you see on the screen. It's kind of, I say, like, say cow, see cow. So if you're going to say cow, you need to show me a cow on the screen. So that is super important, just thinking about the details.
Okay, good. And if you're going to use an AP photo, you need to be licensed to do that.
Yes.
We have that license. Now let's show you just a quick clip of, this was the newscast we did last week, our very first one of the semester. I'm just going to show you a little bit of that, how they started. Notice the split screen again, and notice how Nate and Sarah kind of time out at each other and look over at the other person. That's called a toss and catch. Oh, well. Okay, there we go.
Good morning and welcome to Lariat TV News. I'm Sarah Gill.
And I'm Nate Smith. Thanks for joining us today. We are outside and socially distanced to bring you our first newscast of the year.
That's right, Nate. We are outside and we're going to bring you the news to our Baylor community. Let's get right into it. Baylor University has launched a COVID dashboard that alerts the community of the number of daily positive coronavirus cases and general coronavirus testing administered on and off campus for students. Per the dashboard, Baylor reported 149 new cases.
So we use graphics there as a video, and we thought that was the number one story students were interested in. What are the COVID numbers? And then we went to a package from one of our reporters.
/coronavirus.
One major Baylor fraternity is suspended from all activity after violating off-campus regulations set by the university earlier this month. LTVN's Winston Margaritas takes us in depth as Fiji fights to stay afloat.
On this block, one party left the Phi Gamma Delta fraternity suspended for the foreseeable future. This suspension is part of Baylor cracking down on off-campus social gatherings. The party occurred last week.
And so then Winston went into the story. He did the story on Fiji, and then we had a story on the football team marching.
Football Twitter released a statement saying this was an organized, team-led demonstration.
And then we had a number of other stories, and you can look at all these on BaylorLariat.com. You could look at our newscast and see the entire newscast. So another thing I want to talk about, we've got just a few minutes left, finding good content. Where do we look? Well, there are a number of places. You have to remember there are 8 news values when you're looking for stories. Proximity, magnitude, impact, timeliness, conflict, emotion, oddity, and prominence. Every news story, broadcast news story, has to have at least one of those. Many stories have more than one. They'll have 3 or 4. I've never seen a story that has all 8 of them. Okay, but ladies, I'm going to test your retention here. Which one of these 8 news values is the most important?
Emotion.
Yeah, they got that. Okay, if you can get emotion in your news stories, people are going to watch. They're not going to tune away. The best stories are not about events. They're about people, said every news director ever. You don't need to do a story just about, oh, somebody's having another meeting or having their annual pie sale or something like that. You got to find something interesting. about the people and seek the emotion on that, okay? Do stories about people. Give you an idea, some of our LTVN stories, upper left-hand corner. One of our reporters last year went to the homecoming parade at Baylor. It's the largest homecoming parade in the country. And he focused on, why do kids go? And they go for candy and go for something like that. You can never go wrong with kids and puppies because they're emotional. People are emotional about kids and puppies. The other three pictures there, we had snow in Waco. And so we had a reporter go out at midnight when it was snowing and talk to students and get them sledding and find out they built a snowman on the statue, Judge Baylor. And there was emotion in that. The kids were having a lot of fun. And so those are all clips from that. Okay, and then we're going to show you this story and then start wrapping up. This is a story where to find you. You could get story ideas from your cafeteria, from the hallways. Ask your fellow students, what do they care about? One of our students was in a dormitory that got put on lockdown on, they had to quarantine for 4 days. And so we thought, oh, George is in there. George, give us a backstage view on that. And so this was the story he came up with along with one of his teammates.
I'm Winston Margaritas, LTVN reporter, coming to you from just outside of Martin Residence Hall.
And I'm George Schroeder, LTVN reporter, coming to you from my dorm room on the 4th floor of Martin, where we've been quarantined since Saturday after 21 people tested positive for COVID-19. So George, what is life?
Can you turn the audio up just a little bit?
Life on the inside could not be more abnormal. It's kind of crazy, actually, that all of a sudden, within the blink of an eye, everything got shut down on the 3rd and 4th floors. But we do get meal deliveries 3 times a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You know, sometimes you just got to order DoorDash or Uber Eats because it's a lot tastier.
Martin residents were seen picking up their delivery order in a creative way.
But as it's gone on, I've been getting used to it, and it's, you know, you just gotta get through it and make the best of it. I cannot tell you how excited I am to get out. I'm not a huge runner, but I guarantee you the first thing I'm gonna be doing when I get out is going for a run in the morning because I will be free.
For Lariat TV News, I'm Winston Margaritas.
All right, so there you go. We don't be afraid to do a first-person account if it's something that people would be interested in. Make your stories relevant for that. You can find the stories anywhere, listening to students, the lunchroom, bus lines, civic groups, locker rooms, hallways. Listen and make sure people care about your stories. The number one thing you have to do, you have to communicate with your team. Right, ladies?
Yes. There was countless phone calls and emails throughout every newscast or story we did. We were constantly in communication, FaceTiming, calling, anything you can think of.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then communicate. Coach your reporters, ask for ideas, brainstorm on pitches. You have to adjust for being remote, and you discuss your rundowns and stacking continuously. And we have weekly staff meetings. Sometimes when we're doing remote, we'll multiply those. We'll do staff meetings twice a week or whatever. So everybody's clear about their roles and their responsibilities, okay? Delivering the goods. What do we mean by that? Well, you got to deliver good writing, good sound, and good video in your stories. Good writing, you have a hook lead. That first 5 to 8 seconds in a broadcast story is what draws people in and makes them watch. Don't be boring with that. Be simple and concise, and then write in active voice, not passive voice. Good sound. Sound carries a story, gives depth to it. Transcribe your interviews so you know for sure you're using your best sound bites because you write around your best sound bites, and then look for the emotion in those sound bites. If you're doing an interview, it's okay to be quiet for a second. If you think your subject is going to say something else that's important, don't jump in. Don't interrupt them. Let them express their thoughts. That's called letting that interview breathe and letting that story breathe. And then good video. Picture's worth 1,000 words. Video's worth a million words. And the formula to use for shooting video, 70% close-ups, 20% medium shots, 10% wide establishing shots. The emotional shots are the close-ups. Make sure your lighting's good, and don't forget to white balance, right, ladies?
Yes. Make sure you white balance every time you change locations, because that is super important no matter what.
It's the worst coming back to the studio and then editing and see, oh, this looks blue.
Yeah. So, and then also headphones. Make sure you always check your audio before you do an interview. It might be awkward because you might have to say, I'm sorry, hold on, let me check this really quickly. But you will be so glad. Those 2 minutes of maybe awkwardness, it's going to be worth it whenever you are in the newsroom and you have everything and your audio sounds good. That's worth it.
Yep, good points. Okay, and the 2 questions we ask every day in our newsroom. Question number 1, did we get the story right? You can't forget the fundamentals. You still have to practice the fundamentals. Did we get multiple sources? Did we get both sides of the story? Did we fact check? Did we get it right? And question number 2, why will our customers care, our viewers and readers? If it's not a relevant story, they don't care about it, you are wasting your time and they're not going to let you waste theirs, okay? Those are 2 key questions we ask every day, all right? And I know we're about out of time. Jeanette, if you have any questions, do you have any questions now you want to ask, or in the chat? Has anybody put any questions in, Jeanette?
Actually, we had somebody who couldn't attend. They're going to watch the video later, but I want to go ahead and ask their question.
Okay.
They are actually in school, but they have to social distance, and they're wanting to do a broadcast, but they have to wear masks. So they wanted to know if you had any suggestions. And I saw in there that you had one reporter talking with a mask on quarantine. What suggestions do you give to students who have to wear masks when they do reporting or anchoring?
So, yes, wearing a mask, I mean, obviously that is vital to everyone's health. So you're going to have to do that. And that might mean, if you look back at that story, it's on our YouTube channel. He really used his upper face to express things. So really don't be afraid to use facial expressions. They might not be able to see everything, but they can see your eyes, and your eyes are so important to the reader. They're going to look at you in the eyes, and so use your expressions and really try to project your voice and speak as clearly as you can with a mask on. It's going to sound muffled, but just do the best you can. Those are my 2 tips.
And if you're shooting on your phone, you can, again, use that little $15 lavalier mic, and it's going to catch up your audio a lot better if it's on the lapel of your jacket or on your shirt rather than through your phone that's 5 feet away, or your camera.
Okay, hope that helps, Jeanette. So
yes.
Okay.
And students, if you have any, or advisors that are on the call, if you want to unmute yourself and ask any questions, or if you want to put it in chat, I am floored by, I'm not a broadcast person by trade, kind of fell into it, but there was so much amazing information. I wish I was in the classroom that I could take this back and use it. Okay, I don't know if I really wish I was back in the classroom right now because it's so hard. But if I was, there was so, from all of your app suggestions to your creative ideas to get B-roll. Now I've got a new saying, say Cal, see Cal.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to thank y'all so much for doing this.
Jeanette, we have our emails there for all 3 of us. That is my office direct line phone number there. You can check out all these videos at BaylorLariat.com and on the LTVN column. And we invite questions if you want to come visit Baylor and tour our newsroom and see. I mean, you can do that. We'll social distance. Again, we're still producing remote newscasts because we can't be in the studio, but love to have people come by, any of the students or advisors, or call me or email Julia or Sarah. I'm so proud of them. They've done so great, and it's just, we appreciate the opportunity to share what we're learning.
Well, I think this is going to be such a great resource for our teachers. So I appreciate, and ladies, thank you so much for giving up your afternoon with us. Bruce, take care.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, guys. Y'all have a fantastic day.
Okay, stay safe, everybody. Okay, bye-bye.